Last week we did nothing but carbohydrates, so this week we're going to do an egg bake. Something really simple and really anybody can do it with any leftover ingredients you may have, so that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. It's a great meal prep idea and really it's a great source of protein. You can't go wrong. Before we start the video, I want to say thank you to Dollstrong for sponsoring a giveaway to you guys. All you have to do is be subscribed to the YouTube channel with the link down below. They're giving away one of their brand new series of chef knives. It's their brand new Quantum series. They sent me this to use for the video, so we're going to bust this thing out and see what it can do. I had asked Dollstrong to send me this Nakiri style knife from their Quantum series because honestly, Nakiri, come on, she's one of our favorites, and I will admit I have been wanting to get my hands on one of these Nakiri Japanese style knives for quite a while. I am not disappointed. Go ahead and get subscribed to their channel for your chance to win one of these gorgeous knives. For this, we're going to need 1 onion, some cheddar, a bit of spinach, and a bunch of broccoli. Now, you can mix and match and use whatever you want for vegetables, but I really do like this combination. They taste nice. What's great about egg bakes is, again, you can use leftovers if you want to make your very own, essentially a frittata. These are the things that they overcharge you for at Starbucks in those little sous vide cups. Yeah, you know, the little bit of egg with like leftover meat product. That's what they're selling you. Just make this at home. To start things off, we're going to go ahead and julienne our white onion. For this, we're going to go ahead and peel it and then just get nice slivers out of your onion. You don't want these too thin or too thick, otherwise it'll just be a little bit too much of a bite when you have it in your egg bake. The most important thing is to keep it uniform. Now for our broccoli, you do want to make sure that you wash your broccoli really well, especially with whatever is going on right now. And for this, we're going to remove the florets from the stalks, but do not throw away your broccoli stalks. These work really nicely for using for broccoli soup, so we're going to hang on to all of those. Then for your actual florets, we're going to give these a nice rough chop because we don't want too big of a piece inside of your egg bake, similar to how you did your onion. You also want to make sure to not chop them up too much, otherwise it's going to be broccoli puree time. And I know it looks like a lot, but just trust me. And now to tenderize the cheddar, but just be gentle to your beautiful Tillamook cheddar. I like to use sharp cheddar for this. It's local, it's delicious. We're gonna warm it up with our hands for some reason. And we're only gonna use about half of this block of cheddar. Now, you could shred this cheddar, but you're gonna get a better overall mouthfeel by trying it first and knowing it's delicious, and then slicing it into about 1/4-inch slices. From there, we're gonna stack this like 2 little decks of cards, and we're gonna cut this in half, and then dice this into little tiny chunks. So that way, when we go to add it into our egg bake, you're gonna have these beautiful pockets of cheddar rather than shredded cheddar that will more or less get lost in the entire egg bake. Just look at those little guys, they're gorgeous. Just make sure you do give them a taste, but just try not to eat all of that cheese because you will need it for this egg bake. Now we have our onions, our cheddar, and our broccoli. Now with most of our mise en place ready, we're going to actually go ahead and cook this before we end up adding in our egg. The reason for that is because the things like the broccoli and the spinach and the onion do carry a lot of moisture. If you don't cook those ahead of time, a lot of that is just going to leach out into the egg and it's just going to be a runny mess. Plus, you can also add any other flavors you want, which we might do depending on what I can find in the fridge. Now to saute this, you're going to need a somewhat of a decent sized pan. We're going to go ahead and hit this with a little bit of olive oil and then drop in your onions. We're going to cook these onions until they're slightly caramelized. You don't want these to be too caramelized, otherwise it's going to be too sweet. Look at that nice, just a little bit of golden color to that. You don't want too much. After you get some nice color on those onions, we're going to go ahead and drop in our massive amount of broccoli. This is a significant amount, but it will actually cook down if you could actually get it all in the pan, Paul. Now go ahead and give this a good stir to incorporate the onions with the broccoli. From here, hit it with just a touch of water just to help start steaming that broccoli in the pan. You don't want to add too much, otherwise you can incorporate too much moisture into your pan. You'll know that your broccoli is done when you have this beautiful green vibrance to it and when it still has a little bit of a crunch. At this point is when you'll start adding your spinach. And when I mean add spinach, I mean just keep piling this spinach in there. I use about half of the container that I had because it is going to wilt down pretty significantly. try to turn this thing. We have it over a medium heat so it doesn't burn on the bottom. We're also going to introduce just a touch more water onto the spinach to help steam this as well. And you'll see as it starts to cook, it will eventually wilt down, and that's when you want to hit it with a little bit of salt. After seasoning it, make sure you give it a good stir just to make sure there are no salt pockets, because that is just not tasty whatsoever. You'll know it's done when the spinach is wilted. Now that the vegetables are done, we're actually going to place it into a pan just to make sure it's totally cold before we end up adding our eggs. If we were to add our eggs straight to this, you would actually start cooking the eggs before you really want them to start cooking, and that's not a good time for anybody. So big time gamer move pro tip here, you want to use a non-stick baking pan and use non-stick spray so that way you're not dealing with eggs that get stuck to the pan. Once you have your non-stick spray on there, spread out all of your vegetables to make sure they cool down completely before messing with them. So this next part is a little bit interesting because while I was at the grocery store, I noticed that, well, they were out of eggs, kind of. But as I was searching through, I thought, you know, what would I have used at the hotel for kind of a large order? A lot of the time when we did banquets, we would honestly rely on liquid eggs simply because it was ready to be scrambled. I figured people aren't gonna buy liquid eggs, and I was right. I picked up egg whites and whole eggs. What you really want to look out for though is some of these are quite deceptive. Sometimes a lot of the ingredients will include gums or other preservatives inside of the eggs, which you don't really need. So what you want to check out is make sure it just says egg whites. And in this case, it just says whole eggs. So pay attention for that if you are using something like this, if you're out at your local grocery store and you can't find eggs during this entire situation. It's going to taste just as good. Now to combine, just shake them up. Give it a good shake. You're going to need to. We're going to go ahead and use about 2 cups worth of whole eggs, which is basically this entire container. And then shake up your egg whites because those really do need a good shaking. Bob Evans liquid egg white smoothie? What? I'm going to add in about the same amount of egg whites that I did to the whole egg. So that's going to be 2 cups of egg whites to 2 cups of whole eggs, just to have equal parts. Pour this over your egg so that way it's completely even all the way throughout the pan. You don't want any weird pockets. I decided to add in the rest of our egg whites, so we did 3 cups of egg whites instead. Now we're going to add in our cheddar cheese, and I very strategically, like solid snake, placed all of this cheese so that way each bite had a perfect amount of cheese. Probably not. Then we're going to hit it with a bunch of cracked pepper because it tastes delicious, and throw it into your oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. Because we're cooking this egg bake straight into the oven rather than using a cast iron and kind of cooking it that way, it doesn't have a lot of lead time with the actual cooking process. So this is going to take between 30 to 45 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. It's going to differ for everyone depending on the thickness of your actual egg. I have mine set to 30 minutes, so I'm gonna go work out and then I'm gonna have a lot of eggs right after that. During my workout, I had set my alarm for about 30 minutes just to come back in and check, and it definitely wasn't done. I popped this back into the oven for another 10 minutes or so and came out to pull this bad boy out and just look at it. It's so nice. It's set really well. You want to check to make sure that the eggs are relatively firm but aren't overcooked, so you don't want to go too long on your eggs, and just make sure that they're cool. So after a really good workout, this is starting to smell really nice, but you don't really want to take it out of the pan immediately, simply because if you do, it may fall apart. Hold on, Gandalf is snoring. So now that the egg bake has cooled down enough to cut it, and I guess we can eat it as is, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you a couple of my favorite ways of having egg bake. So now that our eggs have cooled down completely, we're actually gonna be able to flip this over onto a separate pan. You can see that our trick worked by using that non-stick pan and that non-stick spray. But I'm gonna go ahead and flip this guy back over with a little bit of parchment paper right onto the cutting board, so that way I can actually cut it directly on the cutting board rather than on any metal. I'm going to try to get an even 8 pieces out of this by cutting this in the middle, cutting those in half, and then cutting the entire thing in half one time. And look at our egg bake. It's nice, it's solid, it's gorgeous, you have beautiful pockets of cheese in it. Come on. I mean, look at the interior on that. You can see all of the vegetables, you can see all the little pockets of everything that we added, but the spinach is nice and wilted, the broccoli's cooked perfectly, the cheese has melted. Let's take a bite of it, just as is. The eggs are fluffy. Everything is cooked really nicely because we didn't overcook it in the pan, and it didn't really have a chance to overcook in the oven. This is really good. I think it just needs a touch more salt, which honestly, we can add a little bit of finishing salt when we make our next thing. Now for this, I'm going to be using a really nice seeded German style rye bread from the old bakery I used to work at, which I was laid off yesterday. That's fine, we're not talking about that. We want to get 2 really nice even slices from this bread. After toasting it to release all of the beautiful oils from the seeds, I'm actually going to smother this with just a bit of really nice Greek yogurt. From here, I'm going to go ahead and slice some of the egg just to make sure it tastes good, and then I'm going to slice it fairly thin to lay it directly on top of that Greek yogurt. This is power breakfast right here, power snack. Realistically, have this any time of the day. It's gorgeous, tastes delicious, but we're going to finish it with a couple of things. A little bit of this really beautiful Alder smoked sea salt that we picked up locally here in Portland. Fantastic stuff. I do enjoy it, so I kind of go a little heavy-handed with it. And then we're finally going to finish this off with a local habanero sauce. This is a smoked habanero sauce as well from another purveyor in Portland. Fantastic sauces. Cut this into quarters just to make it that much easier to eat. Almost get it in focus, and yeah. There it is, guys. One way to do an egg bake. And I will say you can do this a number of ways, and honestly, you could eat it as is. You could throw it into some ramen if you really wanted to, and it'd be just as delicious. Rachel's also working from home. I have to feed her and entertain her too. This is a really nice dark rye from the bakery I did work at as of yesterday, but it's still phenomenal bread. A little bit of Greek yogurt, seasoned really nicely, a little bit of local habanero sauce, smoked sea salt. Cheers. Oh, it's spicy. Oh, it's so good though. All the vegetables are so nice. You get a little pop of cheese, not a ton of it, which is great. The creaminess from the Greek yogurt, the nice hearty bread, spiciness of the habanero. That's so good. Remember, if you're keto friendly, you don't have to have it with bread. You're gonna be okay just having it as is. If you want your chance to win your very own chef knife from Dollstrong, all you gotta do is look at the link below, get subscribed to their channel, and they'll be doing a giveaway. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the Patreon for all of those goodies, or follow me on Twitch for live streaming. I also have my very own manga cookbook coming out, so take a look for that in the pinned comment. My name is CHEFPK. I hope I taught you something today. Get subscribed, and remember, keep playing with your food.
Dump and a jump. Tap when I speak, all cap with the speech till they caught up in the rapture. I'm so out of line with the phrase game. Let's take a break, been a long day.